Welcome to Creepypasta Night, where the shadows linger a little longer and the darkness whispers your name. Tonight's story comes from a quiet rural corner of upstate New York, about 18 to 20 years ago, around 2005 or 2006. Locals still refuse to speak the real name of the place out of fear, so they just call it the Bridewell Pond. What you're about to hear is true, as told by those who lived through it. If you feel a chill crawl up your spine, that's normal. Just don't pause the video. They say it listens. The Harrington family lived on an old farmstead just outside a small, forgotten town in the Adirondack foothills. Robert Harrington, everyone called him Uncle Rob, ran a modest grain operation. Brick house, full silos, good harvest every year. His wife, Mary, kept the home running smoothly. They had 3 children. Oldest son, James, 16 or 17, away studying at a strict religious seminary in Pennsylvania. Younger son, Ethan, only 10 or 12, the sweetest, most obedient kid you'd ever meet, and their only daughter, Lily, quiet and gentle. Life was peaceful until one brutal spring storm in early May. A nor'easter tore through the county, howling winds, torrential rain, hail the size of golf balls. Trees snapped, roofs peeled off barns, roads turned into rivers. The next morning, the world looked broken. Little Ethan insisted on going to school. His mom begged him to stay home. The roads were treacherous, but Ethan never missed a day. Perfect attendance was his pride. Teachers loved him for it. So against Mary's pleas, he grabbed his backpack and headed out alone. His usual friends stayed home because of the mud. The school was about 1.5 miles away, down a dirt road that passed right by an old, overgrown pond the locals whispered about. Thick woods crowded its far bank, dark even on sunny days. Ethan took the shortcut along the water's edge. On the way back, alone again, the road was slick as ice. He slipped hard, scraping his hands and knees raw. Blood trickled. Embarrassed and hurting, he thought, if I go home like this, Mom's gonna kill me for disobeying. So he limped to the pond to wash off the mud and blood before heading home. He waded in ankle-deep, scrubbing his skin. The air was cold after the storm, but suddenly, a wave of unnatural warm breath brushed across the back of his neck, like someone exhaling right behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Just ripples. Heart pounding, he hurried home and never told a soul. A week passed. Everything seemed normal. Then, one evening, Uncle Rob was walking back from the fields after dark. The house was in sight when he felt it. A soft, cold hand resting on his shoulder. He froze. No one was behind him. No footsteps. Just that unmistakable pressure, like fingers gently squeezing. Terror flooded him. He bolted, crashing into the yard and collapsing on the porch. The family rushed out. Shaking, he told them everything. Only then did Ethan, pale as a ghost, confess what happened at the pond. They'd never experienced anything paranormal before. No family stories, no local legends they believed. Desperate, Rob found an old spiritual cleanser, a traveling preacher type who claimed to handle curses. The man came with 2 helpers, performed strange rituals, dug around the foundation and pulled up 3 iron stakes buried deep near old trees on 3 corners of the property. He declared, "Someone hexed you. These stakes were binding the curse." He took the stakes, demanded $500 and a sack of grain, and left. For a few days, peace returned. Then, in the dead of night, around 1 or 2 a.m., a deafening crash shook the entire house. Boom! Like something massive slammed into the roof. Then again, boom, 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 4 times. The walls trembled. Everyone woke screaming. From the window behind Rob and Ethan's room came a guttural, inhuman voice that rattled their bones. "Robert, who do you keep calling, you fool? I warn you, Call no one else here again." The voice roared the same threat 3 times. Every person in the house heard it clearly. Even neighbors half a mile away felt the dread, packing up and staying with relatives for days without explanation. The fake preacher vanished when confronted. Strange activity escalated nightly, heavy objects rolling across the tin roof with grinding metallic screeches, then thudding into the yard, yet nothing was ever found in the morning. Whispering groans outside the windows, footsteps inside empty rooms. James came home from seminary for break, unaware of everything. One evening at dusk, while the women were out visiting neighbors, James sat in the yard eating a snack. He heard soft humming, a woman's voice, almost singing. Irritated, sunset prayer time was near, he followed the sound past the old cottonwood tree. There, leaning against the trunk, was a figure with long, dark hair, combing it slowly. From behind, she looked exactly like her cousin Sarah from down the road. He called out teasingly, "Sarah, you crazy? Sitting under a tree at dusk with your hair down like that? Something's gonna grab you." He walked closer, laughing. The figure turned. James' blood froze. There was no face, just smooth, blank skin where eyes, nose, and mouth should be. From that void stretched a black, glistening tongue, 3 or 4 feet long, thick as an arm, coiled like hair from behind. It had been draped over her head to mimic long locks. The thing let out a wet, choking hiss and slithered up the tree trunk using that tongue like a serpent. James screamed, "God have mercy," and collapsed, unconscious from sheer terror. A passing neighbor found him hours later, carried him inside. He didn't wake until the next afternoon, trembling, barely able to speak. When he finally described the faceless thing, the family confessed everything that had been happening. Furious they hadn't told him sooner, James said, "Our seminary director, Reverend Hale, deals with this kind of evil. People say he commands spirits. You should have written to me." They drove to Pennsylvania immediately. Reverend Hale lived on campus. No family, no photos, just him and his work. They waited outside his office. When invited in, they saw him tenderly feeding 2 pigeons from his hand. He listened to every detail without interruption, then asked them to wait outside. He closed the door for 15 minutes. When they returned, he wore a knowing smile. "Your grandfather, Elijah Harrington, he was a remarkable man, a justice of peace, but also gifted with abilities beyond most. He could perform ceremonies not just for people, but for them." Reverend Hale explained, "Years earlier, Elijah was invited deep into the woods behind Bridewell Pond by a group of entities that lived there, powerful, prideful spirits known as the Mareed. They needed an officiant for a rare inter-clan wedding. Elijah, respected even among them, accepted. Everything went well until the groom's side, proud Mareed warriors, learned a human was officiating. They mocked the bride's clan for bringing an inferior mortal. Tensions rose. Elijah, pride wounded after enduring endless insults, finally snapped. "If you don't want my blessing, fine. Let's see anyone do it better than me." The groom's family stormed out in rage. The wedding collapsed. The bride's father appeared in Elijah's dream that night, voice shaking with grief. "My daughter weeps so hard she's fading. Because of your arrogance, her life is ruined. You will pay." Days later, Elijah's eldest son drowned in Bridewell Pond under mysterious circumstances, pulled under though he was an excellent swimmer. Enraged, Elijah confronted the spirits in the woods. 2 lesser entities begged for mercy. "We were ordered to do it. We had no choice." Elijah spared them, but bound them deep beneath the pond with an unbreakable seal. "You'll stay imprisoned until the blood of my lineage for 3 generations touches this water." The seal held for decades. until Ethan's scraped knees bled into the pond that stormy day. The entities, weakened by years of confinement but burning with vengeance, were freed. The fake preacher unwittingly removed the protective stakes Elijah had placed around the house, letting them inside. Reverend Hale revealed he knew all this because the pigeons in his hands were his scouts, spirit informants in disguise. One had just returned from the pond with confirmation. He sent 2 powerful guardians to the farm that night. For 6 months, total silence. Then, one evening after sunset, a local boy named Tommy came running to the door, breathless. "Mr. Harrington, your older sister is here. She's waiting by the pond with a bunch of bags, said to send someone to help carry them." Uncle Rob went pale. His older